Started. Good morning. Happy Saturday. It's the weekend. You've had a couple of days now to sort of digest Thursday's lesson, and so it's pretty normal to have questions or my recommendation is, even if you don't have a question, but there's something there that's either holding you back or there's a thought there and you're not even sure what the exact question is, raise your hand anyway, okay? That is really, I believe, the gift of like coaching and mentorship, is that really just by me asking you a few questions, chances are I can kind of pull out of you kind of where you're at or what's, getting you stuck and that kind of thing, okay? Let me just make sure in the group no one's got questions or that kind of thing. Okay. Let me really quickly just post a link in the Facebook group. If you guys want to go ahead and raise your hand, I'm going to post a link and a reminder in the Facebook group really quickly just to make sure there's nobody waiting. Okay. There we go. All right, go ahead and raise your hand. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. All right. So let's dive into questions. Yes, lots of hands raised. I love it. Okay. We typically, the way the Q&A calls work is that we try to cut off after about an hour. There are times where we go over slightly, but the nice thing about having sort of like a time frame in mind that we want to try and stick to is that it keeps us on track, keeps us on pace, and we don't have a lot of discussion that isn't as relevant as it needs to be, okay? So I will be kind of keeping an eye on the clock, and around 9 o'clock my time, in about 60 minutes, we will try and start wrapping up, okay? Cynthia, you are first, my dear. Let's hear your question.
Okay, so when I was watching the video about the storytelling, and towards the end when you both were discussing the future story, you said, oh, I have such clarity on that. So I was wondering, what is your future story?
I don't remember that part of the video, so I'd have to go back and watch like exactly what you were talking about. So her future story, what is her, I know she has 7 signature stories. Remind me what the future story is.
Okay. It's about like your vision.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was like future, because there's one of them, I just can't remember the name of it, where it's like the future of your client, like what they would get out of working with you, like what their transformation is, or kind of like the values that you offer by telling the future of a client. Oh, I know mine. And I shared it a little bit on Thursday, but my vision for our world is that money stress is no longer a thing. So it is probably the last taboo topic. People are talking about politics all day long on Facebook. They talk about religion now, and I still think people don't talk about money. I want it to be where people are walking on the street and they're like, hey, how's your budget going? How's your goals? Are you hitting your goals? Like, I want it to be normal conversation, just like everything else, where people are actually supporting each other and talking about it, and everyone's got goals, and like having financial goals is like normal every day. Like, that's just how you manage money. And I want it to be where financial coaching is the norm, that everybody has a financial coach, just like most people know that they have somebody file their taxes for them, or they have, maybe a landscaper, or like, it's just so common. And I want it to be where financial coaches are just the norm. And if you have a financial coach, it does not mean that you're broke or that something must be wrong. It is because you care about your money, and everybody cares about their money. That is the vision that I have for our world. And I don't know that I will experience it in my lifetime, but I do believe that ever since the Academy was created, and as we've been seeing more and more financial coaches get really great results with their clients, like, I do believe that we're like, working towards that vision, which is really awesome. So that's
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, Taylor, where'd all the hands go? There were a whole bunch more hands up just a second ago. Where'd they all go? Taylor, you're up next. There were more a minute ago, though.
Okay. I just a few questions about my why story. I think I've got a pretty decent one, and I'm actually kind of just living it a little bit right now. But most of my story just has to do with kind of my battle with anxiety. And I've done some volunteer coaching for people in crisis mode, single moms with kids, just trying to get back on their feet. And I've always worried about worried. That's my anxiety issue. But I've always worried about just trying to have a relatable story, kind of like what you guys were talking about, because I've never really had any, financial issues, but I've also had a lot of good coaches in my life, which is why I haven't had good financial issues. So I think a lot of my why story about becoming a coach is just centering my story around how good the coaches in my life have been, but I don't know how relatable that would be to a client or not.
Yeah. So great question. I'm curious, like you've had coaches, which is wonderful. Cause I think for a lot of us, like if you've never been coached before, it's really hard to know what your client's about to experience being coached by you. So I highly recommend finding an area of your life or your business, maybe your career, whatever the case may be, and receive coaching. For me, it's like I hired a personal trainer in January and had to like get coached by a trainer in the gym, so it doesn't have to be necessarily your business or your finances. But anyway, you say that because of those coaches, you didn't have financial challenges. Did any of them specifically focus on money, or was it that you were able to take their message and apply it to your finances yourself?
Take their message and apply it to my finances myself.
So could it be that you were able to do that, but you realize that other people may not be able to make that leap like you were able to make the leap? And so you're essentially you've made the leap already, and now you're going to just make it relevant and very like applicable. So like you're saying, there's all this coaching out there that you can receive, but very few people actually coach on just the finances. So you have to make the leap. You have to be able to like connect those dots, or you can hire me and I've already connected the dots and I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to help you focus on the finances.
Okay. That's good.
Is that like, and this is where whenever we talk about why stories, I really want to make sure that I've given this feedback on a few of the videos that I've left for you, the feedback videos. I'm going to say like, hey, is this a good connection? Is this how we can make this all correlated? Is this how we can bring cohesiveness to this? And it's got to still be accurate and relevant and true. Okay. So it's got to go through that filter. Like, is that true? Like, is that what I did? I made that leap. And so, yeah, I was able to do that, but another person might not be able to. If it's not true, then it's not going to work, even if it is cohesive. Right. So it's got to go through the filter of accuracy for your own life first. So Taylor, I would say if that's true, then like it's amazing to me how our expertise is something that we are able to do simply. And as soon as we can help other people feel good at it too, or naturally good at it too, that is a gift, right? And so your gift, I believe, is that you've received all this coaching and you found a way to make it relevant to your money. And now you're going to teach that relevance to others.
Okay. That's good. That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, good. You're welcome. Let's see. Bobby's going to go next. But before that, if you guys had your hand raised, when we first got in, there was like 5 people with their hand raised, and they're not showing up on my screen anymore. So please double check and see if you need to re-raise your hand somewhere. Maybe it glitched out or something and people got deleted. So if you thought you had your hand raised, just double check that it's still raised. So Bobby, you're up.
Yes. My story, my why is something similar to Taylor, okay. Whereas my parents, my dad was a small business owner and my mom was a teacher. And I observed them, my dad going through his business and interacting with his customers beyond just the customer standpoint, where they would come in and share their life stories and their life issues, and he would listen with compassion and caring and try to help them navigate their issues. So it got to the point where they would always come to him when they had life issues. And my mom being a teacher, it was basically the same thing, where she cared a lot about her students, and she spent a lot of time after the normal school hours working with her kids to try to get them the skills that they needed to learn how to do their work and so forth. So, and when they came home, they brought a lot of that home with them. They discussed that, and I would listen as they talked back and forth about it. But they also had to deal with running a family. So,
where's the question, Bobby, in there? Like what's coming up for
the
you?
question is how do I tie all of this together from my standpoint? Because I learned a lot just by watching and listening to them, and how they interact with other people, but also interacted in our family. Because my mom she managed the household finances. My dad managed the business finances. So I would be there with my mom, listen to her talk about the needs of the family, especially during the summertime when we only had one income.
And why do you think that has left an impact on you? What about that left an impact on you? What's the observation or the lesson that you learned from that?
Well, it made me more conscious about personal finances, how to deal with being maybe at times a breadwinner, or living with one income, how to make money last, doing those situations like that.
Do you feel like because your parents were they were not always, but like often talking about money, like it was very obvious to you, it wasn't like something that happened behind closed doors, like it was something that you were very aware of, that you were able to observe the changes and the transitions that needed to happen at different times and like the various situations, and that money is fluid and that you can have really good one moment and one person can be the breadwinner, and then a year later that shifts, and you were sort of like observing all of these ebbs and flows?
Yes, that was something very similar to what I was experiencing as I went through life and became a teenager and adult. Just listening and watching, hearing the conversation about finances, because of the business nature of our family, and also my mom being in education. So
why do you want people to know about that? Like, why is that relevant or significant to you when it comes to other people's money story?
Well, I think it's significant because I saw when my dad was helping his customers and he would help them work through problems, it was life-changing for them. And they really appreciated that.
Okay, so what I am hearing, and again, maybe not, but what I'm hearing is I'm imagining like the respect and the love that people had for your dad, your parents, because of the help that they were able to give them that transformed their life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it was something that your parents did naturally, and you want to be able to do that too. Like you want to take something that you have like grown up with and have that impact on other people's life too. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly, because I'm an extension of both of them. That's who I am. Just inherited that passion and that caring attitude to help others. That just what they did.
I feel like it sort of honors your parents to continue almost like their legacy of like changing people around you, or like, do you feel like it's something that would make them proud if you said like, I help people? Like, would that make them proud?
Yes, it would. Yes.
Okay. Does that matter to you?
I guess that's important. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure if it's important because of what they did, but just because of just my nature of want to help people. And it may be because of what they did and the way I was brought up to have that helping attitude or that caring attitude.
Yeah. And I think part of your story, your why story, could really be, this is how I was raised. This is the impact that my parents had on people's lives. And I saw how it transformed people, but it also you grew up feeling very proud of the contributions your parents had to our world, like sort of the people they knew and the people they touched. And so you're in your mind, you're like, this is the way we do things, is that we take something that we're good at and we help other people be good at it too, that we give our knowledge and our, expertise to other people. That's what we do. That's how I was raised. And so now in money is something I feel like I can help people with. And so that's why I'm doing this. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, it does. Yes.
Does that feel true to you? Does that feel cohesive to you?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And it is cohesive. It is.
Okay. So now what I would say is like with that sort of, that's the umbrella, right? That's the point you're trying to make. And now take it and say like, what are the pieces of my story that like where I can tell it as a story, right?
Right.
So
Right.
Bobby, I would think of like, I was raised by my parents. This is something I saw often, and come up with like one example of like somebody was, came over to your house and you saw your dad help them, or a moment where somebody thanked your dad for the help and you like observed that like appreciation. Does that make sense? Like just one example. Again, don't tell tons of examples, because you can explain the entire feeling that you are going for with probably one really great example. Okay.
Okay.
Tell that example. This is how I was raised. This is what I do. This is kind of how my operating system is that you help people around you. You have an impact on their life. You make the world better, like all that kind of stuff. And so this is why I do what I do. Does that make sense? Do you see that that's your story? And now you need to fill in those pieces.
Yes. Okay.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
I can't wait to hear Taylor's too. Woo! It gets me excited. Okay. All right, let's see. We got Kim. You are next.
Okay. Well, thanks. Part of my situation, it might be a little bit of a different challenge, is that I have been coaching folks informally, I guess, formally and informally for a lot of years now. I just have a passion to help people. And so I guess, and my view has always been that I've done this to give back, because I have a heart for people, women in particular.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this, but why do you have a heart to help people? But why do you have a desire to help people? Where did that come from?
Maybe because of where I came from.
Okay,
right?
that's it. Yeah.
So I was a single mom, and a single mom, and then I had a very successful career, 25-year career, and I just early retired. And so now I want to take my heart, which has been really more of ministry and helping folks, and the challenge that I have is wanting to monetize that what I've always done for free, if you will, and as a ministry and just as a give back. And now I'm saying, okay, well, this has all been wonderful, but now I want to, I've taken a career break, and now I want to turn it into a full out business.
Yes.
And so like emotionally, that's a bit of a challenge. And one of the things that I found is that like there's nothing more rewarding than helping somebody, helping them get on track and have a budget and pay their debt down. But I found one of the reasons that I want to monetize what I'm doing is because I feel that if folks don't have skin in the game, then they don't have skin in the game. And so anyway.
100%. So we talk about this specific topic a lot when it comes to setting your prices, but then also the sales conversation and like why does this stuff matter, right? And I know, like, I really wish that I could somehow do this for free and still provide for my own family and do it for free while having the clients get the exact same results that they're getting when they pay for it. And neither of those things are possible, unfortunately, right? Yep. So what I also believe is people show up differently when they pay for something.
Yeah.
And I believe that making financial change is challenging. It is not easy. It's simple sometimes, but not easy, right? And when the going gets tough, what keeps a person engaged and committed is the fact that they've made that financial commitment. There is a journey that a person experiences when they're going about making a financial commitment to something. They're also making an emotional commitment. Mentally, they're processing, like, is this worth it to me? Like, am I really going to show up on this? Like, there is a process that happens. And I'm sharing this. I know, you may know this, Kim, but it's just good for other people to hear it in case they're not fully aware of it. So, like, there is a journey that they go through of a bigger commitment in all ways, as in addition to the financial commitment, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I also want to plant the seed that this does not have to be one or the other for you. So it doesn't have to be that you're either doing it fully as a ministry or fully as a business and there's no in between, because there is an in between. You could offer a scholarship fund. You could have a gifting program. You could set money aside every month that, you know, goes into a bucket, and that goes towards paying for somebody once a year. And maybe it's like that single mom who just got out of like a bad situation, or a, you know, a domestic violence scenario or something like that. This could be an and scenario for you.
That
Okay.
makes me smile very big.
Yes. Okay, good. So I think, for you, if you can hold on to the fact, or if you can come up with an example, or like a pattern. I think it's more about a pattern, not a specific example, like one particular client. I think it's more about a pattern of, you know, I love to do this for a ministry when I'm able to. I love to give back when I'm able to. But one of the things I observed over time, over and over again, is that when the going got tough and a person really felt challenged, if there was no financial commitment on the line, they had permission to quit.
Yeah,
right?
That's
and
great. Yeah.
I charge for this, one, so that I can give it all of my attention and effort, and I'm not distracted by a full-time job while I'm also doing it. But then two, because I know it's what's best for my clients. I know that it's what they actually need. Does that make sense?
Love that.
Okay, good. You're going to have to watch this. You're going to have to give yourself a pep talk periodically, Kim. Just trust that too. Like, there will be days where you fully believe that and you show up in that way. And then there will be days where you're like, oh God, should I not? And like, just come back. This Q&A call Saturday, you have access to this for life. Like, this is the part that you'll have to come back and like probably watch a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really appreciate it. I mean, I've been thinking, well, do I do like a sliding scale is a way to help? But again, I think the points that you made, I receive excellent.
That's a great question. So let's talk about the idea of a sliding scale program price. Because I get asked that question probably once a month from a coach. And I think that there's a complexity to it that makes it so that it's not as favorable as the benefit. And so what I mean by that is it's definitely not simple and straightforward. So when a client's like, how much does this program cost me? And you're like, well, like we got to do this formula and I'm going to look at this, but isn't calculated in that. And like, to me, it's just a bit complicated, more complicated than it needs to be. But the other reason that I offer is because of doing this for as long as I have, I am telling you, I have had clients that make $35,000 a year and have more discretionary income every month and make faster progress than the client whose salary is over $1 million a year. Okay.
Yep.
Income, expenses, debt load is actually, the numbers of a budget are kind of irrelevant at some point, right? So if you're saying, and so then what do you do? Like, is it based off discretionary? And then what's considered discretionary, right?
Right.
Discretionary is like, well, I have to have an after school program for my kid because I work during that time. Well, other people, it's like, I do after school program because it's good for my kids. And it's like, well, then you get into this whole gray area. Like, I just think I don't think it works. And I'm not saying it never works, because there might be coaches out there that have found a way, but I would rather have you be like, this is the price. And I can come up with a payment schedule that makes it easier for somebody to eat that elephant, right? Like if it's $3,000, $3,000 for some people are like, here you go, here's $3,000. And other people are like, how long can I pay you that $3,000? You know, I would rather have you come up with something like that versus like this whole other complex scenario.
Okay. Great.
Good.
Great discussion. Thank you
Good.
so much.
Yes. Thank you for asking the question. Okay. Serenity, you are up next, my dear. Awesome questions, you guys.
So you guys just kind of opened up a lot within me. So I want to help single moms. And I know a lot of them, like my friend is in a situation where she was in a domestic violence and she doesn't have a lot of family support. She's living in like below poverty level. So, you know, I have to be a little bit more compassionate that she doesn't have somebody to watch the kids, nor does she have the money to pay. And if she were to go get a normal 9-to-5 job, she wouldn't have the money for childcare. So I kind of really wanted to create opportunities for these moms to exchange childcare costs, you know, like babysit for each other. And that's how, you may not have the income that we need to pay me a lot of money, but we can get you in a position where you have skin in the game by investing in each other. You know, I need you just as much as you need me in order to move forward with our financial goals. I believe that typically single moms, you know, they are invested in their children. They want what's best for their children. So regardless of their finances, they're going to do whatever it takes to create a better life for them. So that's a part of my why. But with that, I feel like a lot of society is kind of, you know, getting in debt mindlessly because they don't really have a purpose for their lives. They don't even know who they are as a person. And so I believe part of my coaching is going to be finding out their specific identity, who they are as a person, and building that confidence within themselves. But part of that for me personally is I am a Christian, so my identity is in Christ. Now, I don't want to be that pushy, you have to type person, but how would I make my beliefs relevant without being pushy?
Great question. So a number of thoughts came through my mind as you were talking. One, I love the idea of, so on that, you know, design your business, and it had all the squares and the grid. That is going to be on that community aspect. You're going to be all over on that side. Like what you're going for is like, we are all in this together. We're creating a village. Like it takes a village to support one another, all of that. So, and that is great to have that clarity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The other thought that I had, and I've never had a coach do this before, but this is one of the reasons I love the Academy, is because all these new ideas come out, and I'm totally brainstorming here, but you could have where it's like, let's say it's a certain price per month. Part of that is your fee, and the other part of it goes into like a bucket of like providing support to all of the people in the group. Does that make sense? And then maybe it's like 2 or 3 expenses that can be covered out of that. So child, you know, care, or something for self-care. Oh, that would be a good one. Mommy self-care, right? So it's not for your children, it's for you, right? And again, I don't have all the how behind that of like, well, do they apply for the money, or how does it happen? And you can figure out all the how later. But I love that idea because they're all pitching in towards the success of everybody else. Does that make sense? So that would be really cool. It's, you know, coaches have different titles in a way. So like there's financial coach, there's financial life coach, which I think is a little bit of like what you would be doing. And so that might be something that you want to consider either adding that into your title, like literally calling yourself a financial life coach, or I don't like this, but you know, financial identity coach, or whatever, you know what I mean? So something, you are more than just like a budget coach, because then there's like budget coach, which is great too. And they really just want to help people like, you know, get on a budget with their money, right? But they don't want to dive into like, let me help you clarify your vision for your life and all of that, right? So that's just something in your marketing message, and in like, who do you attract? You're attracting people that understand that they need help managing money. They need to learn that. And there's something more to it, right? Their money chaos is a representation that they don't have clarity on their own life and who they are at the same time, right? And so one of the things you want to be super careful of, and I say embrace this in all of your marketing. What you don't want is somebody who's like, no, I just need help with my money. I don't really want to like talk about all that stuff with you. Like, I just really want someone to help me with my money. And if you don't like, because you could have somebody reach out to you, and then when you're trying to like get them to like be really reflective or really introspective, they're going to be like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. So you need to be super clear on your money. Or on your messaging. Does that make sense? Of like, who I work with is a woman who is in this situation, or this is how they feel on a regular basis. Like they give everything to their kids and there's nothing left for themselves. And even if there was, they wouldn't know what they want anyway. Right? Like that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. So, and then I am also, I don't have like a clear question that you should ask yourself, but I think you need to ask yourself about the Christianity thing, and like how the role that's going to play in your business. If it is a big part of you, and I appreciate you saying like, I don't want to be pushy, and yet it is a big part of who you are, and likely the people that you will end up working best with are the people who also have a strong faith base, right? And you don't have to push it on them. They already have that piece. Does that make sense? My fear is that if you are trying to shy away from it because you think it's like PC somehow, or like I'm not sure where that like hesitation is coming from, that it's going to feel as if you're withholding a really big part of yourself.
Right. I want to be 100% authentically myself and not be okay in the environment. I don't want somebody to, the fact that I mentioned how God is important to me, I don't want them to feel like I'm imposing on them, if that makes sense.
Right. And that there are people that, you know, they see somebody praying or say the word God, and like they're immediately a little like, I'll say offended. I don't know if that's the right word, but like they're just kind of like, you know, or something. And so that's why I think in your About Me page, like, I think you need to say like, this is a big part of my life. Like, because a person that will either like totally love that and embrace it, or they're going to be like, okay, not for me. And that's what you want them to make that decision like right away. Like you want them to know that either that's good for them or not good for them. Does that make sense?
That does.
The other thing I think to kind of reflect on is like, imagine playing out the scenario where like you've got 2 sessions back to back. One of them is a person that faith is already a part of their life, right? And then another person that like maybe shies away completely from like talking about that, right? Or is turned off by it. And how would the conversation go for you in either of those situations? And see, again, I don't have the specific question, so it might be something that we just have to sort of keep talking through, but like, how would the conversation go? Like, why is it important that there's at least a nugget there of a foundation for you, that for their faith? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's important to kind of think through so that you can determine like, yes, I'm either willing to help somebody that like has absolutely no, you know, spirituality at all, or I don't know how I would coach them, or like if they don't have anything. Does that make sense? Right. Since it is such a big part of your life.
Yeah, I think I have to no, gosh, I can't say the word. Differentiate. Thank you.
Yeah.
That it's okay for me to be myself, and myself is, I talk about God often because it's a reflection of my identity. But I need to be able to say it in a way where those around me, which I found at work to be true, so it should be able to be okay in this, but where they don't feel like I'm expecting that of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that this is who I am, and I need to just be me and figure out the way to,
yeah. I'm curious. So we had a person, this was maybe 2 years ago, come through the academy, and she kind of had, I think it was like 5 parts of her program. And it was like finances, fun, family, faith. I think it was maybe the 4 F's or something. So it was kind of like one of her pillars that she coached around. And because of that, like she talked about on her website, she, you know, there was like a blog article that she did that was like how her faith guides her finances or something like that, right? And so because of that, she had people that were needing help, didn't, you know, had chaos, single, you know, whatever the case may be, but they already had a little bit of that foundation of like, you know, they go to church periodically and like that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think you have to decide, do you want that same thing where it is a part of your brand, or is it not a part of your brand at all? It's just part of who you are. That one feels a little out of alignment to me. Do you see that? Like, how can it be part of your brand or not part of your brand, but a part of you when you are your brand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I don't want to feel like with my who, I don't want it to feel exclusive. I want
so here's where I want to challenge you on this. Do you not want to be exclusive out of fear? Like, because here's the thing, niching is really scary. Like finding your niche and like saying, I'm going to exclude a whole bunch of people from my brand and working with me is a really scary idea. So are you saying it because it's scary, or is it a different feeling behind that where you're like, I I can coach somebody and have conversations if faith never comes up. Does that make sense? Because here's the thing is, in that approach, you are excluding yourself. You're excluding a big part of your life.
So I think it needs to be more, I'm willing to coach any single mom who is willing to embrace who they are as a person. And in that, I'm going to be speaking about who I am as a person openly and being transparent in that. And I'm going to bring up faith. And that then person is going to need to be receptive of my vulnerability and who I am.
I love that. Yes. And I think, you can come up with the exact wording, but that type of message has to be on your website someplace.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only that, but that shows who you are. Like you're very open-minded. Like, this isn't about faith specifically for you, but it's about respecting each other and like what each other needs. And that is, not every person is like that. So I think you really have to kind of put that out there, because some people are going to be like, that's exactly the type of person that I need. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Helpful?
Yes, very. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Lynn. There's some conversations happening in the chat, and I haven't. I'll read those in a little bit, but I want to make sure I get your questions answered first.
Hold on. Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Oh, there you go.
My challenge is figuring out how to be relatable. From, I guess, which section of my life. The childhood part, I learned, I guess, just by watching my mom. No, back in the day, in the Stone Ages, nobody was really talking a lot about money and finances. So I pretty much saw her pay her bills. There was no conversation in the household about money, but I saw the responsibility that was associated with it. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I, like Bobby, learned just by seeing what my mom did. Never had any financial concerns as far as I knew of. Sure. Was, paid for on time, no big deal. And so from my perspective, my love of financial literacy and budgeting and stuff came innately. Because I mean, the formal training that I had in the space came post-college, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But my desire to want to help individuals came when I was in the workplace, working in the banking industry, and constantly seeing people come into the bank either wanting loans or credit cards or having issues with balancing their checkbook, overdraft, et cetera, et cetera. So that's primarily what has driven my desire to want to help. And that's when I really started getting into the financial literacy teaching and coaching aspect. But I don't know how to craft a why story without it.
Yeah. There's a piece missing, and I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something. It feels a little surface level to me, right? Like and it's all accurate and it's all true, and yet there's something like, and this is one thing that I notice all the time is like a desire. People are like, I just have a desire to help people, but why? Like, why? Here's the thing, Lynn. Why, when you saw people struggling, did you say, I want to help you? Because that is a personality trait. Not everybody sees a person struggle or sees a continuous problem and says, I want to help, be part of the solution, right? So we have to dig deep on where does that feeling come from? Because it's not everybody has it, So.
And I guess just because I get sick and tired of seeing people not being able to get to the next level. If that makes sense. So
why does it bother you to think that they're not getting to the next level? They're not seeing their own potential because of the financial chaos and lack of clarity. Why does that bother you so much?
I think part of it is because they didn't know what they didn't know. That makes sense. You don't know what you don't know, so you can't fix what it is that's wrong. That's why I went more to the education side, if that makes sense, versus the coaching side, because I felt knowledge is power. Once you knew better, you may be inclined to want to do better. And then I just threw the coaching in. So if someone had a question about something that I was teaching, then that's when I got into the coaching piece. So
okay, stop for a second. Why does it irk you to know that a person has so much potential in their life and they are not realizing it?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think you have to answer
I guess
that.
maybe because I know my potential.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Does it make you sad? Does it make you angry?
It makes me angry.
Makes you angry that like this person has potential and they are not realizing it?
Because they don't know they have the potential. Does that make sense? Is that, am I making sense?
It makes total sense, but I feel like there's something here, and I'm wondering if everyone else is like hearing it, or is it just me? Like there's something a little deeper going on, and I don't know what it is, but there's a reason. There's either an experience there somewhere for you in your life, like where somebody was held themselves back, but it was a subconscious thing, and that impacted you somehow. I don't know what it is.
Can I interject?
Yeah. Who is this?
Okay, so for me personally, I didn't have many people speaking life into me whenever I thought of something I wanted to do or something I wanted to be. It was knocked down. And so I had a hard time believing in my worth and my value and my capabilities. So for me, now that I have found it, I am so excited to share that with others. So could that maybe be what happened with you?
No.
Did your mom, Lynn, was she the type of person that like told you can do anything and you can, did she live up to her potential, do you feel like? Or has she been? She did not.
No.
Is money part of that or no for her?
No, I think I was part of it because she was a single mom.
Okay. So like she had to kind of work with what she had, right? Like there was something there where the card she was dealt was that she couldn't just like up and leave responsibility, obligations, all that kind of stuff.
A single parent had to drop out of college to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And she did.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So I know there's a gap.
Yeah. How come, I'm curious. Okay. So maybe this is the question. How does money help a person fulfill their potential? How come you see people on a regular basis not living up to their potential and that makes you angry? How come money is the tool that would allow them to stop limiting their life? In your mind, why is that?
Because I think money gives you choices.
Why?
Choices, consumer choices, not necessarily mental choices, but consumer choices. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I had, say, the money, then I could put my child into a program to help them advance themselves. Or if I had the money and the ways and the means, I could do this with it, make the appropriate decision I want to make, and the money would help me get to where I'm trying to go.
Mm-hmm. It makes total sense. I think this is something that like one day you're going to have this like epiphany and you're going to be like, that's it. Right. But I think for now, the why story can still be built around the idea that, and if I'm right now, my thought is that I don't think your childhood has anything to do with your why, actually. So I think what it is that, like, maybe it's that like innately you had, okay, let me stop. Gather my thoughts a little bit. Okay. What you learned growing up is that we can't shy away from looking at our money, right? Like your mother had I would say kind of, it sounds like a very balanced approach. Like she wasn't great with money. She wasn't like a rock star stellar, like, achieving all of her dreams financially, but she also did what she could. She paid attention. She like had a very sort of like balanced approach, and you just were brought up with that. And then you went into banking and you saw day in and day out, just one person after another that was not living up to their potential because money was holding them back. They didn't have it, they weren't using it as a tool to live to their potential. And so that's when you decided to do something about it. Your desire to help kicked in. Does that make sense? And there was something you said, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And what I heard when you said that, it could be just a simple change, right? Like you just got to learn a little bit and it can like change everything for you, right? that it's a simple step that can have a huge impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had all these people that had like this lack of progress or lack of potential in their life, not lack of potential, lack of progress towards their potential, I should say. And it really could have just been something so simple that changed it for them. And that's where you decided to step in. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, what I saw was a lot of people that it was generational poverty mindset. That's what I saw.
It's the pattern, right? That's where it's like I would.
And that's why I said they didn't know what they didn't know, because it was generational. So what was passed on, so just like with me, what was passed on from my mom to me was nonverbal. Because like I said, we didn't sit down and talk about money. I just saw what she did and saw she was responsible, and that's kind of what I did. Same thing with the people that I was seeing. What they saw was what they gravitated to. And so if they didn't see good patterns, or if they didn't know how to make the right money choices, then they follow that same pattern.
Totally. Yeah.
But
I think the focus though for you, Lynn, has to be on the fact that, but it has to do with the fact that that's holding them back to so much more in their life, right? That it's not just the fact that it's like, I want to teach you the ABCs of financial literacy, right? That's not it. It's, I want to teach you this because I am seeing this pattern that is holding you back, and this is going to be the thing that creates the most change for you, or the most shift for you, or the most impact for you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Your why of teaching money is not because you want them to be smarter consciously, or what's the word, like critically thinking about money. Like that's not it. It's not like you're like, I want you
to be
have
fun
more words, right? That's not it. It's not like a knowledge thing. It is an impact on their life thing. Do you see that?
Take the fear away from money. Does that make sense?
Take the fear, but then shift the patterns that they have that they don't even realize they have that are holding them back. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And this is where I think, we need to embrace, all of us, like what makes us unique, because there is a coach that's like, I just want people to have more financial knowledge. I want them to be more educated about terminology and like, that kind of like, it's like cerebral. That's the word I was looking for. Like they want to like do cerebral financial knowledge coaching. I believe, Lynn, by hearing you talk, there's that, like, there's like, I'm going to give you some nuggets, but it's because that nugget is going to, I don't want to say be revolutionary, but it's going to open up a whole bunch of doors for you. That's why.
Because my company name is Mind Your Money.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought is that I want to help change people's mind about money, either what they think about money or how they use money to have an impact on their life.
To have an impact on their life. Do you hear that? Because I was going to say, why do you want to change their mind? Why does it matter what they think about money? That's the question we're trying to answer. And the reason you think that matters is because it's going to change their life.
Right.
Right. So I think, to just kind of summarize really quickly, and I apologize, I know we kind of went on a whole journey there. Sometimes that's how it works, right? Is you I think learned innately how we're brought up impacts us, because you learned things not because someone sat you down and taught it to you, but because of what you observed. And while that lesson for you was positive, right? That was a positive thing. That also happens in a negative way for people, where what they observed growing up is actually holding them back. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you want to teach them about money because you saw how those things were constantly holding them back and they weren't even aware of it, right? And beginning to just take those first steps with money is what's going to change their life. And you want to have that impact. Does that feel true to you? And does that feel cohesive to you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. simmer on that, like come back and watch this probably, maybe fast forward through the whole roundabout that we just did there. But yeah, and see if you can kind of, if you tell that story, like again, there might be some, it starts to unfold a bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Cynthia.
Okay, so mine is more of a technical question, and Jacqueline might be able to answer this. So when I was watching her video, I saw that she was looking down and she greeted people for the live. Like, I've not done a live before. I've done some video because that was an area of discomfort for me. So I like walk around the house, I video myself all the time. So do I use the iPhone and then also have my computer open on Facebook? Like, how do I know if people are on the live call?
Good question. And this is totally personal preference. Okay. So I'm going to give you a few tips. Really quickly before it comes to the technology side, does anybody else have any questions about their why story, about their business design, about business name, anything that we probably need to like talk through or delve into just a bit more? Because the technical piece, Cynthia, I'm happy to just kind of help you with that, of course. I just want to make sure that, you know, stuff that might be holding a person back from like processing. Yes, Jacqueline.
Okay, so mine's not more about my why story, but something that I noticed yesterday morning when I was doing like the vision exercise that has the 4 squares on the first page, and it's like how does your business affect your finances? And okay, I am having like a hard time doing that, and I don't know why. And I notice I do this in every kind of course I go through that has any kind of vision work. So like I put it off or I get distracted, and I have like a general vision for my life, but then sometimes I don't know. Do you have like any insight on that?
Yes. And I've heard this before, and I feel like at times of my life, I've had the same sort of observation. It's almost too expansive. It's like, there's no filters. And so it's almost like I can't rein in my thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would recommend is to attach a timeline to it, because sometimes that can just help you compartmentalize the vision a little bit. So start with like, what do I want for the next step of my business, the next stage? And whether that's a year from now, because everyone's a little different. So I don't want to say a timeline, because that timeline will be different for everybody. But the next stage, is your next stage like in the next year? Is it when you leave your teaching job? Is it like 5 years from now because you see yourself maybe teaching for 3 more years, or, you know, who knows, right? But like that next stage of your business, what is your vision for the role it's going to have on your finances, the role it's going to have on your schedule or your family, or, you know, that kind of thing. Okay. And and just think about that first. Okay. And then go to like the next stage after that. Because what happens is if you just take the next stage, now you are almost embodying that stage of your life. You're like, I'm starting to see very clearly that I am. Oh, that was weird. I just heard some really weird feedback. Anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm now in that stage of my life. I'm either like, I'm a full-time financial coach. This is what I get to do because of that. I'm having lunch with my husband in the middle of the day. Like, that's my thing, right? Like, I'm now in that mindset. I'm in that mode. And what could I see myself wanting next? Like, what's the next stage? And that is really hard. And I will tell you, don't worry about it being accurate, or like, I didn't know, like if you would have actually 5 into my business full time, I still said all the time, you guys, I said all the time, I will never train other financial coaches. Those words came out of my mouth, just so you know. And what I meant at the time, I had this very closed-minded perspective. What I thought was that in order for me to train other coaches, they had to be my coaches, that I was responsible for them, that they were working under me and under my brand and all of that. And I was so protective of my baby at that time, like my Fiscal Fitness brand, that I was like, I will never hire a coach. Those words came out of my mouth over and over and over again at a time in my life. And look how different my life is, right? So don't, like, it's not about it being totally accurate. And there's pieces of it that you'll have no idea. We never envisioned Michael coming on board with my business, ever. That was never something that he was so passionate for so long about physical therapy and about athletic training. Okay. And then insurance shifted, and he got to the point after a couple of years where like insurance was dictating the care of a patient, right? Like that's, for those of you who are coming from a medical field or don't, that's kind of what started to shift for him. So instead of him saying like, I need to work with you for this long, this many times a week, all of that, it was like, your insurance is going to tell me how many times I can meet with you. Right. And he, you know, Michael does never does good with bureaucracy. Like that's just like his thing. Right. So, and if you would have told me early that Michael at some point would not be passionate about physical therapy, I would have thought you were crazy. Right. So it's just one of those kind of those shifts that happens in life. So if it's not about having it all figured out, Jacqueline. Okay. So we are the type, I mean, we're planners, we're, you know, it's got to be right. And that those might be the kind of thoughts that are limiting you.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Great question. Okay, Cynthia. So let's talk about tech. And this is good for everybody. It's just kind of a really good perspective on technology. There's a lot of like personal preference type things. So I don't like having like 14 different screens. So like I don't have 2 computer monitors, but some coaches and some professionals love having like the 2 screens when they're meeting with clients and that kind of thing. Personal preference. I am not really big on my cell phone like some people are. So if you want to have a little stand, or I mean, honestly, totally bootstrap this at first if you have to. Stack up a whole bunch of books and then put something, I'm going to show you. Something that looks like this, where what you're going to do is you're literally going to put a whole stack of books. You're going to put your phone like this, right, in front of it. So it's like holding up your phone, and you're going to record, you're going to go live in the group. Okay. And if you do that, Cynthia,
like a big tall stand that holds my phone, and I do already have, like, today I have books underneath my computer.
Yes, right. So if you can go on Amazon and you can buy, like, we have this little arm clip. I can show it to you. Oh yeah, it's right here. Just a second. Okay. There's a couple different options. There's this, which has like, it clips to your desk, right? And your phone goes here and you can like move it and stuff. Okay. Amazon. I don't know how much. I don't think this is very expensive. We've had it for probably 5 years. Or you can get something like this, which is like the tripod style, holds your phone. This moves technically, all that. So you can get something like that, or if you don't want to spend any money, totally bootstrap this. Like I said, stack up some books, set your phone on something, okay? And you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. For our purposes in our group right now, we're not going for like ultra professional if we don't need to be, okay? So you can do that when you're doing a live video on your phone. Even though the screen is really small, the way it looks, Cynthia, is like your video is going to be like really small at the top, or like half your screen. So you're seeing it's like you're talking to yourself. Okay. And then at the bottom are comments that are coming in. So you can see comments, and that's, one way of doing it on your phone. Okay. Another option, if you're doing it from your desktop like this, is you've got your, you go live in the group, and on the right-hand side of your screen, very similar to how this looks right now, where there's the chat window on the right-hand side and there's the participants and all of that, that is like what a Facebook Live looks like from your desktop computer or a laptop. Does that make sense? Yeah. Couple of tips, you guys. You always want to have your computer or your phone or wherever the video is a little bit higher, or like you do not want to be looking down at your phone. Okay. So like that's kind of a bad example, because like technically the camera would be down. So right now it's up high. So you actually want it to be where you have to stand up tall to have, like, it helps you with your voice. It helps make you appear more confident. You don't want to be looking down. Not only that, but like, you kind of get some of this going on if you're looking down and that kind of thing. Okay. So you either want to be looking right out or Mine is like literally up high. So like if you can see the angle of my arm, it's higher than my my camera or my eyesight, my head. Okay. I'll share in the group some technology that we have as far as lighting and the webcam that we use. People always tell me like your video, like it's so bright and all of that. There's two things that help. It's a light that we bought, and I'll share it with you. I think I don't want to quote the price, but I'll share the link. And it's the webcam. And I would say if you could only buy one of those two things, go with your webcam first. This webcam is amazing. It is so, people are like, your complexion looks so good. I do not look this good in real life, you guys. It is totally this webcam, I'm telling you. So, and it's not that expensive, okay? And it's so much better quality than most computer or laptop things. So if you're gonna be using your computer or laptop, I highly recommend a webcam. If you're using your phone, you're just gonna use the video on your phone, okay, the camera on your phone. But you wanna angle up. One of the things that I do on my computer when I'm doing the training videos is I get my video, so where I'm looking at myself, so you're kind of talking to yourself, but I get it up as high on my screen as I can. If I were to move like where I have all of you guys right now, if I could show you my desktop, you're all like, I want to be able to see you all, but I have the window minimized to be up as high on my screen as possible. If I moved this right now, you guys, to the center of my screen, the center of my monitor, this is what it would look like. Do you see how my eyes just changed looking at you? Mm-hmm. Versus, I'm going to move you all back up now. Okay, do you see I have you now like up now towards the top of my monitor, like on my thing. So there's all like, I can see all my desktop all around you guys, but I don't care. Like I'm just looking at you guys, and it helps with, as if you're making eye contact with people. Okay.
Kelsey, would you be willing to share which webcam?
I will. I'm going to share the webcam link. I'm going to share the lighting link. And I personally have two lights. I believe Jill only has one light. It's just based on space. They're big lights. There are smaller desktop ones that you can buy. But I really like the soft lighting, because if you're on your computer all day and these lights are, if you're on your video all day and these lights are in your face all day, if they're too close, like on your desktop, to me, that gives me a headache. The other thing that I highly recommend if you are on the computer all day and you have the lighting behind you is a pair of blue light blocking glasses, which are like $15 on Amazon. I'll include the link for that too. They have all different colors. They're $15. If you have glasses like Cynthia does, or Bobby, your lens may already have like a blue light coating on it, like depending on how like expensive the type of glasses you buy, or if you add some things. But if you're going to be on the computer all the time, I highly recommend getting like the blue light filter. So when I put these on, it's amazing to me. You don't realize how blue the light is until you put something like this on. So my preference, again, personal preference, if I'm talking with clients that know me and all of that, and if it's like the end of the day, I will wear these during a virtual session. But I usually, I feel like, because I don't wear glasses on a regular basis, I feel like these are almost like, they block me from like communicating with a person a little bit, glasses too, because I'm not used to wearing them all the time. Like it feels like something that's between us, to me personally. So like right this morning, I'm just doing this call with you guys. I don't have a bunch of sessions all day or anything like that. So like, I just don't have them on. Like I don't need them for 1 hour, right? But throughout the day, like, I mean, I have days where I'm literally looking at the computer for 10 hours straight. Like I'm going to wear something like this as often as I can. Okay. And I'll include the link to those as well. Okay. These are one of those things, you guys, where I thought it was kind of a scam. Like everyone was talking about them. You see, if you have coaches that are doing virtual stuff and you're following things, everybody was talking about it. And I was like, is that really for real? And I bought them because I was like, they're $15. If I don't like them, it's not that big of a deal. And in the very first day, I stopped getting a headache by the end of the day. So in the very first day of wearing them. So for $15, to me, they're well worth it. Okay. And like I said, you put them on and you realize, oh my God, my screen is so blue, and you don't even realize it until you put the glasses on. Okay. And what's happening is the blue is straining your eyes throughout the day. Okay. So does that help with the technology piece? And I will also tell you that the Facebook group, it's a very supportive space. It's a great place to try and experiment. And if you hop on and you're like, oh my God, crap, I don't know what I'm doing, and you end your video, it's not a big deal. Okay. Like that, it's a great place to experiment. It's a great place to do the trial and error for everybody.
Great.
Cool.
Good. Thank you.
Jacqueline says, I have another quick tip about going live. Yes. Good. Thanks. What is it?
Yeah, it was basically like what you just said there, like use the group for practice. But another thing I did before I started my group is I made a group with just my husband and me in it. And then I went live in there to see like what it looked like from my phone versus my computer, like what it looked like when somebody came on, what comments looked like. So I would just like had his phone next to me and I would make comments as him so I could see everything. And that made me feel a lot more comfortable, like knowing what to expect too. So that's all I was going to say.
That is a great idea. And if you are single and you want to use your super buddy, or, you know, you don't have your spouse to like rope into your experiments, like some of us do, then go ahead and use your super buddy. I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah. Just to make a group, you have to have one other person like willing to be in the group with you on Facebook. So that's why I said him, but yeah, anyone is great.
That fabulous idea. Let's see, Betty, you've got your hand up.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear
Good,
me?
how are you? I'm sorry. Yes, I was reading some of the comments to see if there was any other questions. But yes, sorry, go ahead.
So I asked a question in the session earlier in the week, but my phone died. So I'm not sure if you actually got to my question. So I have 2 live videos that I recorded from the self-paced group. And of course, in the self-paced group, I didn't get like your feedback, and I really wasn't sure which why story is. I don't know if better is the word I'm looking for, but more true.
Yeah. So tell me what they are. Just a really like 30-second synopsis of each one.
One is about my dad, and just a kind of like a flashback of this moment where my dad comes from upstairs with like this big jar of coins, and he asked me and all my siblings to count these quarters, and we had no idea for years that my dad every pay period was taking a $20 bill and getting these rolls of quarters. And my parents didn't really talk to us about money very much, but we're a family of 7, and this particular time I remember it being really weird because my parents didn't talk to us about money. We knew that there was something wrong, but he kind of rallied us together to count this money, to come up with enough money. I think it had to do with their mortgage. I remember feeling like really scared in the moment, just thinking like anytime my dad felt the need to involve us, like it must be significant. But I also remember feeling like, wow, look how prepared he was. And it kind of taught me a lesson indirectly about saving, but my parents never taught me anything about money.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the beginning of it for me. I do this penny challenge every year, and I just thought it was kind of funny how I kind of go back to that piece. But the other part of my story, and I think this one is the one that probably pushed me out the door, because I've wanted to work.
Is this the same story, or is this your other wife?
This is a different one. Yes.
Okay, keep going.
So I think this other one is probably more of the one that pushes me more. Because even though I've wanted to work with money since I was younger, I don't think it had such an emotional impact on me until this moment. So when my daughter and I, when she was first born, her dad left, and I couldn't afford our home and everything on our own. We were homeless, and we lived in a transitional shelter for a couple of years, and that period was just very humbling for me. I've always made good decisions with my money, but I just wasn't prepared for that kind of shift in my family dynamic. And so it just forced me to kind of reset, and to go from that space to being a homeowner, a few years later, just made me realize there's so many women who don't have, they're not prepared for these events, whether it's the death of a spouse or someone leaving their relationship abruptly, or just the loss of a job. And I just didn't want anyone else to feel vulnerable in that place again, and not feel like they have somebody to talk to. And that's one of the areas that I felt like in that phase I didn't know who I could talk to, because people knew me to be good with money, and I didn't feel like I had a resource, and I wanted people to feel like they have someone that they can talk to in that face, because it's money is such a sensitive subject. So I kind of feel like that's
okay. So
I can feel myself more emotionally pulled in that story.
I was just gonna say that. I was going to say I want you to go back and re-listen to this video. Like, you could obviously fast forward, but go back and listen to the way your voice changes when you tell your first why story versus this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one is, it's not that the other one didn't impact your life and isn't, doesn't have this sort of emotional pull on you at all, but this one feels harder to share for you a little bit. It feels more significant. That's the word. Like, it feels deeper to me. And I would say, I'm not sure I want you to post the second video. You can post both. So feel free, if there's like download and reshare or whatever, that's one way to do it. If you just want to, Betty, go live and do both, right? I have a feeling it's more of the second one, but that doesn't mean that that there isn't an element of that isn't important to you or something. Or I think that first one is a really great story that you could absolutely share once a year when you do the penny challenge or something. I think that is amazing. I think that is so cool to have something so personalized to you. And then you have now designed a growth challenge out of a really hard memory. Like, I think that's brilliant. I'm just not sure if it's your why story. Does that make sense?
I love that. That was my thought. Like, I felt like this story is still important, and I wanted to figure out how I could still use it, but I didn't feel like it was my why story. But I felt like it is why in a lot of ways, just not always like my real why. It's not what forced me to stop being scared to do this business.
If you think about, like, let's say your life had played out and that latter experience never happened. So you were, you're still married, that never happened. And you had the penny story. You likely, maybe or maybe not, but that wouldn't have been the thing that made you want to be a financial coach. Right?
I think I've wanted to be a financial coach since I was probably in the 5th grade. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I would have leaped like I have, because once I understood what it was, I'd been wanting to do it, and I kept feeling like imposter syndrome, and I just couldn't do it. And then
it wasn't impactful enough, right? Like, it wasn't personal enough. Like, it was personal and significant. Don't get me wrong. Like, observing that from your dad, I can only imagine, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it was like, now I can see that there is a whole set of people out there in a certain time of their life where they don't have support, and they need somebody, and I want to be that person, because now I've been through it myself, and I know how to emotionally support them through it, and financial strategies and all of that, right?
Right. I feel like I have a voice now. I think before when I wanted to do it, I didn't feel like I had something to say. And because I hadn't really gone through anything, I'd just been good with my money. And that's not something that people can connect with. People want to feel like you understand what it feels like to be down in the first place, and to have the potential to be able to recover. So I felt like with this story, more people could, it would resonate with them. And I do feel more connected to them and more emotionally tied and drawn to a certain type of person. I felt like I didn't know who my ideal client was before this story either, because I felt like it was everybody. But in this moment, it felt like these women. I'm
going to suggest that you share the second story. Well, but instead, Betty, I actually want you to just do it fresh. And there's a couple reasons. One, it's always good to just practice it as often as possible. Okay. So you could just go and share your original, but I would actually just rather have you do it again, but the second one in the group.
Okay.
See, the fact that you're hesitating is exactly why you need to do it. Just so you know. You have to get so comfortable telling it that it is just you tell anybody and everybody who wants to listen, and we all want to listen. We all want to hear it.
Okay.
Not only that, but right now, the biggest difference, Betty, is when you first recorded it, you didn't know if it was the right one or if it was the other one. And now you have a bit more conviction that it is the right why story. And so I want you to tell it again with that conviction.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want everybody to comment and tell Betty that you want to see her why story, or give her a little pep talk right now, please. I'm serious.
I want to hear it, Betty.
Right? We want to hear it fresh out of your mouth.
Okay.
I want to hear the emotions. I want to see your face. All that.
It's amazing you can't see me and you can sense the the hesitation and my fear of delivery. Because I did do an event and I did tell that why story, and it was very hard for me to tell. I know you said, I think once before, that when you tell your why story, sometimes you still are emotional when you tell it.
You should be emotional every time you tell it. That's one of the things I said. You probably hopped off on the last call, is how I had gotten to a point in my why story where I kind of like was very disconnected from it. Like the words were coming out of my mouth, but I really wasn't like there again. And Karen Dietz, the book storyteller, I mentioned that to her, and she said, I need you to go back to that moment. I need you to be sitting on that couch and observing your mother's face every time you tell the story. And there are times when I tell the story, especially if I'm telling it to like a room full of single mothers, where I will tear up because I'm literally imagining my mom's face and the despair and like how she must have felt in that moment, and thinking about the pain my mom felt in that moment. Like even now, like as I actually truly like embrace that feeling in that moment again, like I'm literally tearing up just thinking about it. Does that make sense? And like how she was still so strong for us and like all of that, like literally like now, like it makes me so sad to think that is how she struggled with money. And you know what? If you do that, like do it every single time. It is vulnerable and it is scary. And if you have not read The Power of Vulnerability yet, please get it. But in that moment, you go back to that moment and you want to help people that are right there in that moment right now, right? They're not out of it yet. They are scared. They are super terrified and they're feeling vulnerable. And if they see you disconnected from that, they are not going to trust that you can handle their vulnerability in a session. They need to see it. So I need you to like just be okay with like embracing how that time of your life felt, as scary and as hard as it was, and then shift your energy in your why story to the time that you got yourself out of it and how you feel now, which is stronger and more equipped to help other people, and like let them feel that strength too.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Everyone's telling you that they want it. Okay. Jacqueline, I think you had your hand up. This will be the last question. No?
I think it was still up from when I had the tip, and I just forgot to take it down. I took it down. Yeah. So I'm good.
Cool, got it. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Feel free to pose questions. One of the things you can do if you want to practice going live in the group and you have a question, you're not sure about something, any question you could have asked on this call, do it live in the group. Practice that way, okay? So one of the things you probably have noticed on some of the why videos or introduction videos that people have done is I like to give you a video back with my thoughts. It's easier for me than typing. Not always. Sometimes I'm like literally have a sleeping baby in my lap and I can't like give you a video back. But if I can, it's usually easier for me. And so if you want to ask your question, doing a live video, by all means do it that way. Not necessarily can I hop on live with you at every time, but I'll at least comment back and all that kind of stuff. That's also a really good way to practice. Do not feel as if your questions can only be answered on a Q&A call. Okay, if you have a question between now and Tuesday, share it in the group. Pose it. We will get you an answer as quickly as possible. Does that sound good? All right. Keep up the good work, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. And I truly believe that what we're doing is contagious. Seeing someone else's vulnerability, seeing someone else's hesitations, right? Like Betty not wanting to share and hearing that. I think you guys probably all heard her go from feeling really passionate to all of a sudden being like, oh shit, right? And so hearing somebody else experiencing that like makes it okay for you to just embrace how you're feeling and all of that. So that is the design of this. I hope you guys are all loving it so far. We've got, hey, we're only like 3 days in, right? We got 15 and a half more weeks to go. So thanks for joining in this morning, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Bye, everybody.